ISIS has released the third video in 3 days threatening to attack America. The latest video threatens to turn the White House black with fire. Previous videos promised to bring terror attacks to New York City and Washington, D.C. Security officials say there's no evidence of specific plots or targets. Nevertheless, they are stepping up security. Fred Fleitz is vice president at the Center for Security Policy, and he joins us now for more. Mr. Fleitz, ISIS doesn't usually make empty threats. Do you think they have sleeper agents in the U.S.?
It's great to be on CBN. I think ISIS and Al-Qaeda frequently make empty threats. They're always issuing threats. There's at least 900 open ISIS-related investigations in the United States right now, according to the Department of Homeland Security. And we're going to be at a higher threat level during the holiday season. I think that we have to understand that. But I also think Americans have to live their lives and not let ISIS win. We have to be vigilant, but recognize there's always threats out there. And you know, I'm not sure that we necessarily. I'm not saying don't take them seriously, but recognize that there's always some level of threat.
Indeed. Well, ISIS took down that Russian plane over Egypt. Do you think they have the same capability in the U.S., or would a U.S. attack look more like what happened there in Paris?
We had to find out the specifics of the bomb that blew up the plane in Egypt. It may have gotten on through an airport with weak security, and whatever type of bomb that is, you can be sure that around the world right now there are new measures to stop that type of weapon getting on a plane again. The problem are homegrown terrorists in this country who will be inspired and are being inspired by ISIS propaganda and violence. That kind of stuff is difficult to stop. The FBI has been very successful in foiling many of these plots, but we know from the Boston bomber plot that some of them are going to get through.
Well, as you mentioned, FBI Director James Comey has said there are 900 ongoing terror investigations in the country. So that sounds like the government is on top of the threat. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think the government is doing some pretty incredible work. Our intelligence agencies, our law enforcement agencies, they're doing a lot of work, and I think that they're stopping the vast majority of these plots. And unfortunately, there's going to be a few of them are going to get through, and we have to be increasingly vigilant. We have to have Muslim organizations to look out for radicalized individuals. I think the government has to have more of an information campaign to try to identify these individuals too and stop them from engaging in acts of violence.
What do you think is a greater threat for terrorist infiltration, our porous borders or the Syrian refugees who might be coming into the country?
I think the porous borders are a very serious threat, and we know that I think there were 8 Syrian refugees who were apprehended in Honduras with fake Greek passports who wanted to get into the United States. But I'm very worried about the Syrian refugees, too. We know ISIS wants to infiltrate the West through the refugee flows, and I'm very concerned that there is not a reliable way of monitoring military-age men of these refugees to make sure that if they get in the United States, they're not ISIS terrorists.
Well, is this administration missing a key part of the equation when it comes to fighting the war on terror?
Oh, man, that is a loaded question. I'm afraid this administration has been out to lunch on the threat from the war on terror. President Obama can't say Islamic terrorism. He won't admit that this is not a regional threat or a threat related just to a specific terrorist group, but it's based on a radical ideology that is at war with Western civilization. The president has never been willing to acknowledge that, and until he acknowledges that, the U.S. government cannot defeat this threat.
Fred Fleitz, thank you again for being with us today. We appreciate your insights.
Good to be here.